we have to. So in today's lecture, we will be learning the drugs, uh, the groups of drug used in the treatment of failure, mechanism of action of digitalis and its toxic effects, and clinical implications of diuretics, vasodilators, ACE inhibitors, and other drugs that lack positive inotropic effect in heart failure. So first of all, what is congestive heart failure? It is defined as inefficiency of the heart to pump sufficient amount of oxygenated blood to the organs to meet the metabolic demands and to collect the blood from the organs. And what is congestive heart failure? It is basically a clinical syndrome characterized by abnormalities of left ventricular function, neurohormonal regulation, accompanied by effort intolerance and fluid retention. Okay, before proceeding towards the lecture, first you should know what is preload and afterload. Preload is the volume of the blood in ventricle at end diastole, and it depends on the venous return. The blood that is coming as a venous return is known as preload, or it is dependent on that venous return, and it also depends on compliance. What is afterload? It is the force needed to eject blood into circulation. It depends upon arterial blood pressure, pulmonary artery pressure. Okay, so this is preload and this is afterload. I told you earlier as well, it's a it depends on venous return or the load coming towards heart. And this is afterload. What is afterload? It's a force for which what heart has to do to eject the blood. Look at this. This is heart, and this is the preload coming towards the heart, and this is the afterload. Resistance left ventricle must overcome to circulate blood, like it's a force. Okay. So there are two types of heart failure. Why it is very important? Because in every drug, we have to decide that which type of heart failure is this. Previously, we were not previously, still we divided as systolic and diastolic failure. And in majority of the cases, that is 50% of the cases, the cause is systolic failure, in which there is reduced mechanical pumping action, that is contractility, and reduced ejection fraction. So now these days, when you will see any new guidelines, so the basic thing what you will find out is this, that the drug is the decision of the drug is basically dependent on ejection fraction, whether the patient has reduced ejection fraction or the ejection fraction is preserved. Okay. And what is diastolic failure? It is a stiffening and loss of adequate relaxation that plays major role in reducing filling and cardiac output, although ejection fraction is preserved. So now you will find two types of terms. Okay, let me manage. I think, Bakas, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
कुछ लोगों ने I think hand raise करे हैं. I cannot go towards the chat. Okay, सिर्फ hand raise करें. Okay.
मैम एक तो ये कि आप इनको पहले तो म्यूट ऑल कर दीजिए प्लीज. म्यूट ऑल करने के बाद अगर इनका कोई और लोअर हैंड कर दीजिए. म्यूट ऑल के बराबर में आई थिंक लोअर हैंड का ऑप्शन होगा.
ठीक है.
और अगर कोई क्वेश्चन होगा तो फिर ये हैंड रेस कर लें. तो आप इनका माइक अनम्यूट कर दीजिए.
ठीक है. And okay, so nowadays, as I told you, in every classification you will read two types of terms: heart failure with reduced ejection fraction, heart failure with preserved ejection fraction. Okay. So why I cannot change it? No. Okay. And again, the classification of heart failure is very important, that according to the patient symptoms, we are classifying the heart failure. Class 1 is of mild, in which there is no limitation of physical activity, and ordinary physical activity does not lead to any fatigue or dyspnea or palpitation. In class 2, there it is also a mild type of heart failure in which there is a slight limitation of physical activity. Although the patient is comfortable at rest, but ordinary physical activity can result in fatigue, irregular heartbeat or palpitation or dyspnea. In class 2, there is marked limitation of physical activity, comfortable at rest, but less than ordinary activity can lead to these symptoms. Class 4 is severe. The patient is unable to carry out physical activity without discomfort. Symptoms of fatigue, rapid, irregular heartbeat or palpitation or dyspnea are present at rest as well. Okay, so when the heart is failing, there are two compensatory, although there are different types of compensatory mechanisms that get activated, because actually there is decreased cardiac output. First of all, the sympathetic system is activated, which leads to increased heart rate. I want to discuss this one first. Okay, so there is decreased heart rate, there is decreased cardiac output. So baroreceptors sense that change, and sympathetic nervous system get activated. As a result, heart rate is increased and contractility is increased. These are the compensatory mechanism of heart failure, what the body is responding. Okay, so it means that when a heart is failing, as a compensatory mechanism, there will be increased heart rate and contractility. Okay, the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, it also get activated because of decreased GFR, and it will lead to fluid retention and preload. Now, if the preload is increased as in the whole scenario, so the heart has to work a lot and heart is failing, but due to compensatory mechanism, the preload is increased now. And previously heart was unable to pump the normal blood, but now due to the compensatory mechanism, preload is increased. So what will happen? The ventricular wall becomes tense, which leads to hypertrophy. And definitely these mechanisms will further decompensate the picture. Okay, so, okay, before proceeding towards what you have to decide, like if a patient comes to you with the symptoms or with the heart failure, you have to take a careful and detailed history, clinical examination to confirm the presence of heart failure. And these days, there is another test. We have to measure N-terminal pro-B-type natriuretic peptide, that is NT-proBP, in people with suspected heart failure. It's a new test, but in all current guidelines, as I mentioned here, according to NICE, recent guidelines by NICE, so we have to measure NT-proBNP. And echocardiography, you are quite aware that you have to perform echocardiography. Along with echocardiography, ECG, X-ray, RFTs, thyroid function tests, LFTs, HbA1c, and other tests should be performed. Okay, now if a patient has acute cardiac failure, you have to treat him according to the condition, like the position should be upright, there should be oxygen, there should be IV access, the investigation should be performed, and it's a painful condition. So you should go for diamorphine, and in emergency condition, as there is fluid decompensation, fluid overload, so you will have to prescribe furosemide. Okay, if chronic heart failure, you have to treat the underlying causes basically. So we have, for the treatment of heart failure, we have to think about two distinct goals. First of all, we have to improve the congestion and cardiac output symptoms and restoration of cardiac performance. And on the second goal is this, that as you can see that it is reversing the disease, like it has a long-term consequences. So you have to arrest and reverse the disease progression. So first of all, we have inotropic agent, diuretics, vasodilators, and beta blockers. They all help in relieving the symptoms. And while ACE inhibitors, beta blocker, and aldosterone antagonists, the spironolactone and eplerenone, what they are doing, they are basically reversing the disease progression and prolongation of survival. Okay, so now how many classes we have? We have, first of all, inotropic agents. We have diuretics, we have beta blockers, vasodilator, natriuretic peptide, we have aldosterone receptor antagonist, ACE inhibitors, beta agonist, piperidine, and ARBs. Okay, and how we should give them? ACE inhibitor, uh, usually in the following order. ACE inhibitor along with diuretic if needed should be given for grade 1 to 4, like it can be given in every type of heart failure. ARB if the patient is intolerant to ACE inhibitor, and beta blocker can also be given in every type of heart failure. Spironolactone should be given for grade 3 and 4, and digoxin for only grade 2 and 4, and we will discuss it later as well. Okay, so first of all, we have inotropic agents. Um, what is the purpose of inotropic agents? They basically increases force of contraction, and they share a common mechanism. All the classes, like we have digitalis, we have dobutamine, that is beta adrenergic receptor agonist, and embrinon, that is phosphodiesterase inhibitor. They all work by increasing intracellular cardiac calcium concentration. As a result, force of contraction is increased. First of all, digitalis. Digitalis is although no longer considered as a first line treatment. किस patients में देनी चाहिए? It should be given in patients who are remain symptomatic despite of giving diuretics, ACE inhibitor, and beta blockers. And digoxin has no effect on overall mortality. Like if you will prescribe this digoxin, so probably the mortality of the patient cannot be improved. But if the patient is symptomatic despite the first line treatment, then you can think about digitalis. So what is the mechanism of digitalis? Is this digitalis or digoxin? That it first of all it inhibit sodium potassium ATPase pump. I think ये सबको याद होगा. Okay, so क्या होगा कि sodium will go outside. What is the normal function of this pump? The sodium goes out and potassium comes in. Now you are inhibiting this pump. Okay, so what will happen? That sodium will not go outside, and potassium will not come inside. Okay, अब क्या होगा कि this is not needed for actual mechanism. The actual mechanism is because of sodium and calcium exchange. If sodium will not go outside, the sodium will not come inside, the calcium will not go outside, because there is a sodium calcium exchanger. As a result, there will be more calcium inside. And when there is more calcium inside, it will bind to troponin C, and it leads to inotropic effect, that is increased contraction. So digoxin is basically a positive inotropic agent and a negative chronotropic agent. Positive inotropic agent is because it increases the force of contraction by inhibition of sodium potassium ATPase pump. And it is negative chronotropic agent because of vagal activity. So please make it clear that digoxin affects, it increases sympathomimetic tone, that is, it increases vagal activity. Okay, so then we have cardiac effect. Now, you know, the contraction is increased. So if the contractility is increased, the ejection fraction will be increased, because now the ventricle will eject with the force, so it will be increased. So there will be decrease, all the blood will be ejected. So there will be decrease end systolic and end diastolic size. And now the cardiac output will be increased. So what will happen? Renal perfusion will be improved. So when the renal perfusion will be improved, so what will happen? There will be decreased sympathetic tone. Now, this decrease of sympathetic tone will lead to reduced heart rate, preload and afterload, and heart function efficiently. So it is basically inhibiting the compensatory mechanism that were further deteriorating the picture. Okay, so now the heart will function efficiently. Okay, अच्छा digoxin का mechanism बहुत important होता है, and you should know what are the cardiac effects and electrical effects. इस तरह के BCQs बहुत आ रहे होते हैं. So please इसको एक दफा देख लो, just remember it. Okay, so I think cardiac effects अब थोड़े clear हो गए होंगे. Now we have electrical effects. Electrical effects are basically due to parasympathetic system because it enhances the cholinergic activity, which reduces the heart rate and AV conduction. So अब क्या हो गया? The contraction is decreased, the AV conduction is decreased. So as a consequence, PR interval is increased and flattening of T waves can be seen. There is slow ventricular rate and shortened QT interval is obvious. Okay, whenever we see the effect of digoxin, we always divide it into early response and late response. And these contractility and this effect on pacemaker can lead to late response and leads to delayed after depolarization and premature depolarization, that is ectopic beats can be noticed. And ये क्यों होगा? Because due to the inhibition of sodium pump and intracellular potassium. अच्छा, जो digoxin है, it affects all the excitable tissues, ठीक है? That's why, because it leads to in CNS vagal and chemoreceptor trigger zone stimulation, disorientation, hallucination, and others. So digoxin toxicity is very important because it has a very narrow therapeutic index. So, and the basic thing is, I think 1 nanogram, if you are giving a dose greater than 1 nanogram, it can lead to toxicity and you have to observe the patient. You have to observe the patient. So what are the symptoms? It can lead to confusion, bradycardia, तो हो ही रहा है already, ECG arrhythmias, there can be loss of appetite, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, your favorite adverse effect. It can also lead to xanthopsia, that is yellow halos around light, blind spots, or photophobia, decreased urinary output. Okay, so this toxicity can exacerbate with hypokalemia because you have seen in the mechanism of action that there is already the potassium, it is affecting on potassium. So if there is hypokalemia or dehydration, it will further deteriorate the picture. And digoxin do interact with quinidine. You know, quinidine also share these types of adverse effects. So do remember it. Okay, verapamil and amiodarone. See, this is the abnormal QT because why? Because there is a shortened QT interval and characteristic down sloping of ST depression. Okay, so don't forget that digoxin can play with multiple electrolytes. Potassium and digitalis, basically, they are inhibiting each other. They inhibit each other. If there is hyperkalemia, so if there is hyperkalemia, more potassium, less digitalis will bind to the receptor. If there is hypokalemia, more digoxin or digitalis will bind to the receptor. So if a patient has digitalis toxicity and if it is controllable, so you have to think about giving potassium supplement so that its binding can be reduced. Okay, so it can be used in congestive heart failure, atrial arrhythmias, and some tachycardias. Okay, so this is the digitalis toxicity. Now, how you will treat the toxicity? First of all, we have to manage the electrolytes, especially potassium and magnesium. And then we have to, it can lead to arrhythmias. So you can prescribe antiarrhythmic drugs, and don't forget digoxin antibodies as well. Okay, apart from digitalis, we have other inotropic agents. Usually नहीं देते, कहाँ देंगे? intravenous inotropic therapy sometimes is given in among symptomatic patients. Dobutamine or phosphodiesterase type 3 inhibitors can be given combinedly. किन में देंगे? In patient hospitalized for acutely decompensated heart failure who do not respond adequately or in a timely manner to diuretic therapy. Inotropic agent, they are basically increasing cardiac output and decrease systemic and pulmonary vascular resistance. Okay, so phosphodiesterase, we have phosphodiesterase inhibitor that includes enamrenone and milrinone. So they are like all inotropic agents, they will increase myocardial contractility. How? There is an inhibition of phosphodiesterase inhibitors. It will lead to increase in cyclic AMP, which will lead to vasodilation, and also it increases the phosphorylation of calcium channel, and there is increased calcium entry into the cell. So overall, there is an increased calcium into the cell, which leads to the net result is increase in contractility. These are the toxicity. Dobutamine, beta adrenergic agonist, they comes under the heading of inotropic drugs, and like all inotropic drugs, they will, the overall effect is increase.
मुझे बताइए कब गए?
क्या हुआ वकास? Any problem? वकास, any problem?
अनु में मेरा माइक तो अनम्यूटेड है, आप प्लीज सबके माइक म्यूट कर दीजिए।
अच्छा, मैंने आई थिंक सबके करे नहीं थे।
मैम वो खुद से आप अगर अनम्यूट करके दोबारा म्यूट करें, वो लिखा हुआ होता है अलाउ पार्टिसिपेंट टू म्यूट अनम्यूट देमसेल्फ, तो उस वो एक टेक।
चलो अभी देखते हैं। Okay, so dobutamine, we have dobutamine. Okay, we have dobutamine. It is again an inotropic agent, and it is इतना नहीं देते, लेकिन in certain conditions we can give them. This drug should be given in an IV form, and it will result in increase in cardiac output and decrease in ventricular filling pressure. Used in severe chronic cardiac failure after MI and cardiac surgery. Okay, then we have diuretics. Diuretics plays a very important role in heart failure, and you have studied diuretics in the section of kidney before earlier as well, and you will study it later as well. So we will not study diuretics in detail, but it's a first line therapy for both systolic and diastolic failure. And whenever there is a fluid overload, whether it is cardiac failure or any other condition, the main therapy comes whenever there is a fluid overload. The first thing that clicks in our mind should be diuretics. That if a patient has fluid overload, you should always think about diuretics. So it does not have play any role in cardiac contractility, but definitely they reduce venous pressure and ventricular preload. Then we have, so we have basically loop diuretics, thiazide diuretics. What is thiazide diuretics? पता है तुम लोगों को, but just for a review, we have hydrochlorothiazide, metolazone, and chlorthalidone. They comes under the category of thiazide diuretics, and they are basically blocking the sodium chloride symphotos, which is present in distal convoluted tubule, and it inhibits reabsorption of sodium and chloride. So there is a long list of adverse effects, that is hypokalemia, hyperglycemia, hyperlipidemia, hyperuricemia, hypercalcemia, hyponatremia, hypomagnesia, and hypocalciuria. So this is all what you have to remember. Then we have loop diuretics. Loop diuretics, basically they causes inhibition of sodium potassium 2 chloride symphotos, and it also leads to decreased magnesium and calcium absorption and leads to hypochloremia, and it has the it can lead to hypochloremic alkalosis and hypokalemia. Okay, so if diuretics will be given with digitalis, so there will be hypokalemia that can both can cause hypokalemia, like diuretics can cause hypokalemia, and digitalis, the toxicity of digitalis can be exacerbated if it is given with diuretics. So these are certain things that you should remember. Okay, then we have, so in which conditions we should prescribe them. And whenever, as I told you earlier as well, whenever there is fluid overload, volume overload, whether acutely or chronically, think about diuretics. Loop diuretics, they have a very potent diuretic potency. So, but there is an issue, and the issue is this, that they can be associated with uh, distal tubular compensation. Like if you will prescribe loop diuretic initially, the patient have diuresis, but after a time, due to the compensatory mechanism, there is a distal tubular compensation. It will lead to decreased urinary output. Okay, so it's a better choice to combine loop and thiazide diuretic together. But before prescribing and after prescribing diuretics, don't forget about electrolytes. Then we have aldosterone antagonists, aplerenin and spironolactone. They both are diuretics as well, and they are also aldosterone antagonist. So ये कहाँ देंगे whenever normal patient presides, but we don't think about prescribing these drugs. लेकिन कहाँ देंगे whenever there is low creatinine and impaired GFR, then we always think about aldosterone antagonist. Otherwise, हम नहीं दे रहे होते हैं. So we have two drugs, aplerenin and spironolactone, and they can be given as an adjunct medication for chronic heart failure. Acha. What are the adverse effect? Now they have adverse effect of hyperkalemia. क्यों होता है spironolactone का? ये याद रखना, ठीक है? Okay. Then we have renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system. In this system, we have three drugs. Like we have ACE inhibitors, we have ARBs, and a newer category we have is ARNI. ये सारी current guidelines में है. You can check the guidelines. मैंने photos में डाले हैं बहुत सारी guidelines और बहुत सारे papers. So in case if you are interested, you can go and check them as well. So I don't want to discuss ACE inhibitors and ARBs here. बहुत पढ़ा हुआ है, and I think you know it better than me. But there is a new class that is angiotensin receptor blocker, neprilysin inhibitor, which also known as ARNI. What is this? It is basically a combination of valsartan. Valsartan is ARB. It's sacubitril. Sacubitril is a new drug. It basically inhibit an enzyme, neprilysin, which is an endopeptide. Okay, which is an endopeptide. मैं ये अगर which is an endopeptide. Okay, and that degrades vasoactive peptides, including natriuretic peptides, bradykinin, and adrenomedulin. So neprilysin is basically a peptide, and ARNI is a combination of neprilysin inhibitor with valsartan. Acha, what is the mechanism of action of sacubitril? It basically increases the level of these peptides, causing blood vessel dilatation and reduction of ECF volume. Acha, valsartan ka you people are quite aware that its mechanism is same as ARBs. It is basically blocking the angiotensin receptor type. Side effects are weak cough, hyperkalemia, mainly by valsartan, hypotension. Hypotension can be because of sacubitril, because ये vasodilatation करा रही है और सारे natriuretic peptides पे affect कर रही है. सारे peptides पे it is affecting, so it can lead to hypertension. In newer guidelines, it has seen that ARNI therapy is beneficial over traditional enalapril and other therapies. Okay, then we have ACE inhibitors. ACE inhibitors kya hai? They are beneficial and they are the cornerstone therapy of all patients unless absolutely contraindicated. Kin patients पे contraindicated होता है? Any idea? Just recall it. अच्छा, ये चीज याद रखना कि वैसा patient has some vascular diseases, so it can lead to angioedema and other diseases and other consequences. So better it should be avoided among those patients. What is the purpose of ACE inhibitor in heart failure? It basically, like, it is a first line therapy in every grade of heart failure. You can prescribe it. It reduces both preload and afterload, and they are basically administered in lower doses along with other drugs. Okay, then we have ARBs. ARBs का क्या है कि like it is approximately similar to ACE inhibitors, and those patients who are intolerant to ACE inhibitor, they can be prescribed ARBs. Okay, why they are intolerant? Because of cough. Some patient complain of cough, and you are quite aware that it is because of bradykinin. Okay, and ARB cannot cause cough, but the new category, that is sacubitril valsartan, it can cause cough as well. Okay, so overall jitna bhi ye system hai, it leads to vasodilation, decreased fluid retention, that is afterload and preload, reduction in aldosterone secretion, and inhibition of cardiac and vascular remodeling. In the long term, remodeling is very important. ठीक है, disease हो गई है, we are trying to arrest the disease. We are thinking about symptomatic improvement as well. But vascular remodeling and cardiac remodeling is very important. कि किसी तरीके से heart का previous function जितना भी restore हो सकता है वो हो जाए. So it can, like ACE inhibitors, ARBs can help in that as well. Then we have nisridenide. It is basically a vasodilator. Okay. Then we have beta blockers. And so when the heart is failing, so you are quite aware that it leads to activation of sympathetic nervous system, and it leads to lots of modification in the myocardium. Now, what beta blockers do? They basically inhibit the sympathetic outflow of norepinephrine and contract the changes produced. And it also help in remodeling of, it also help in ventricular remodeling and also improve beta receptor sensitivity. So you know what, the heart is decompensating due to sympathetic overactivity. It can lead to multiple consequences like abnormal transduction and apoptosis, necrosis. This is cardiac, increased cardiac contractility, and there is desensitization, apoptosis, necrosis, fibrosis, hypertrophy, and cardiac remodeling. So if we will give beta blockers, it can inhibit all these things. Okay, so beta blockers should be given in patients with heart systolic dysfunction, except if patient has symptoms of dyspnea. Okay, it should be, ideally should be started in low dose, and it should be started immediately after HFrEF. So these are the terms जो तुम लोगों को सारी guidelines में मिलेंगे. Heart failure, reduce ejection fraction. तो यही मिलेगा, heart failure, preserve ejection fraction, heart failure, reduce ejection fraction. So if there is reduced ejection fraction, so beta blockers should ideally be initiated. Absolute contraindications are bradycardia, second or third degree heart block and asthma. Acha, vasodilators again plays an important role. They basically reduce preload through venodilation. When the veins are dilated, the lesser blood will go towards the heart, so there is a reduction in preload. And if there is an arteriolar dilatation, it leads to afterload. If you'll forget everything, don't forget A and A. When arteriolar dilatation can lead to the reduction in afterload usually. Okay, commonly कौन से dilators देते हैं? We commonly prescribe according to the guideline isosorbide dinitrates and hydralazine can be given. किन patients को देंगे? In symptomatic heart failure patients as a substitute of ACE inhibitor, like the patients who are intolerant to ACE inhibitors or ARBs, they can be prescribed vasodilators. Okay, hydralazine है. Hydralazine is basically arteriolar vasodilator है ये, or it relaxes the arteries and reduces the peripheral vascular resistance. जब ये vascular resistance, adverse effect, nausea, palpitation, tachycardia, and don't forget that there is a vasodilation, so it can also lead to headache. जितने भी vasodilators होते हैं, like nitrates, they can have a potential to cause headache as well. Okay, tachycardia क्यों होगा? Tachycardia इसलिए होगा कि there is reducing the peripheral vascular resistance, so there is a reduction of peripheral resistance. So compensatory तौर पर एकदम से sympathetic system becomes overactivated and leads to reflex tachycardia. Okay, so isosorbide dinitrate, it is again a vasodilator and it is helpful. Okay, nitrates का mechanism क्या होता है? पढ़ा हुआ है तुम लोगों ने. Basically there is a release of nitric acid, there is an increased cyclic GMP, and it leads to vasodilation. Then we have calcium channel blockers. Calcium channel blockers, again the basic mechanism of calcium channel blocker. अच्छा, कौन से I'm talking about few calcium channel blocker. ये क्या करेंगे? They binds to the calcium channel and reduces the frequency and opening in response to depolarization. There is a decreased calcium current. Calcium will be less. So जो उनकी tone होगी normal tone, that will be reduced and it leads to relaxation. Okay. Acha, there is a newer drug. What I want to discuss here is sinus mode modulator. Sinus mode modulator है ivabradine. Why I'm discussing it here? Because before preparing the lecture, the current guidelines जरूर देखती हूँ, जो भी latest guidelines हैं regarding any disease, क्योंकि books बाद में change होती हैं, but you should be updated. और जो guidelines हैं like American Heart Association, and there are so many guidelines. In each and every guidelines, ivabradine is mentioned. What is this? It is a sinus node modulator. ज़्यादा नहीं, बस तुम लोग एक एक जुमला बस याद कर लो कि ivabradine. और I think जितनी newer books हैं और I think MLE और जितने भी उसमें होंगे, वहाँ पर it can be asked. ठीक है? So it's a newer drug, that is ivabradine, and it is a sinus node modulator. कहाँ देंगे? In a patient with symptomatic management of stable heart related chest pain and heart failure that are not managed by beta blocker. ठीक है? Okay. And what is the mechanism of action? There is a channel known as IF. It is basically present in SA node in the pacemaker. So it basically inhibits this channel and it basically reduces the cardiac pacemaker activity, and as a result there will be a slowing of heart rate. अच्छा, अब क्या होता है कि we have so many drugs such as beta blockers and calcium channel blocker. अब ये लोग क्या कर रहे होते हैं? They reduces the heart rate but also the cardiac contractility. But जो ivabradine है, it is more effective in this term that it only reduces the rate without the reduction of contractility. So that's why it is written in every new guideline. Okay, इसके adverse effect इतने पूछे नहीं जाएंगे, देख लेना, and I have mentioned it. अच्छा, before how you have to manage the patient, because we have 45 minutes of time and it's quite less, but although we have completed the lecture. Achha, whenever you have to manage the patient, always you have to check for the stages and you have to treat the patient accordingly. So just look at it, and I think if you have any query, like I just look at, these are few algorithms for the management of heart failure, and this is how we can treat the heart failure. If you have any queries, questions, you can ask me, and in few minutes I will be uploading a quiz on Admodo, and you can you have to resubmit that quiz within a day, and I will share this presentation as well on the Edmodo and few videos as